Welcome everyone to today, March 18th, 2026 meeting of the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners. Calling the meeting to order and inviting everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First on our agenda is citizen input. Typically, if people want to give citizen input, they fill out a blue form and bring it up here. But I don't have any in front of me. Is there anyone in the room who would like to provide citizen input today? No? Okay. Kim, do you see any hands raised online for citizen input? Okay, we'll move on now to commissioner announcements. And I'm sorry, is Commissioner Adair with us or? There we go. Okay.
Okay, we can read her lips today.
Commissioner announcements. Anything from?
I can acknowledge we were just at the fan luncheon. So Family Access Network, what, 30 years, did they say? Pretty exciting. And it's in all of Central Oregon. So Family Access Network supporting kids and families in need at the schools. People can step in and ask for help, or people will be offered help if looks like they're struggling. So great opportunity. It was a fundraiser lunch today. Commissioner Chang and I were both there.
Yeah, and I would just say that what really struck me in the stories that fan advocates and families that have been supported by FAN in the last year or last many years. What really struck me about the stories that they shared was that each one of those stories was they didn't talk about it this way, but each one of those stories was basically a story of a family on the brink of homelessness. And it's really important to hear those stories and to be reminded how very, very close many people who we consider housed in our community are to falling over that edge. I'm particularly concerned about that in coming years because we are going to see a lot of people become ineligible for Medicaid, OHP. We're seeing nutritional assistance declining. We're seeing a little bit of affordable housing being developed, but not nearly enough to meet the demand in the region. And putting those two things together, the kind of conditions that we're going to be facing, plus the stories that I just heard, I can't help but think that organizations like FAN will be doubly needed in the future, and B, that all those conditions might add up to even more families falling into homelessness in the next couple of years. Other announcements? I'll also mention that last night the Deschutes Basin Board of Control, particularly the Central Oregon Irrigation District, held a like a public outreach, public engagement event related to the planning document, the environmental impact statement that's being done for piping something in the range of 18 to 20 miles of the Pilot Butte Canal between Bend and through Redmond, all the way down to the chunk that has recently been piped, what's called the Smith Rock Kingsway project. And there's, of particular interest, I think, to my fellow commissioners. There were at least a few people in the audience there who were expressing concern about the canal in their backyard being piped. And so I think that most of those people who are concerned about these historical designated sections are within the cities, within the city of Bend and the city of Redmond. But I'm guessing that we will be hearing from some of those folks in the next few months as that environmental impact statement is being completed about concerns about canal piping. So just heads up. Okay. If there are no further commissioner announcements, we can move on to our consent agenda.
Commissioner Dare, is your audio working?
I think so. Can you hear me? I didn't turn it off.
Yep. First
Okay.
time we're hearing you.
Okay, perfect.
I'd
I
like to
just,
pull item number 5 today for quick discussion.
sure, that sounds great. I would like to say that Snoqualmie Pass got 6 feet of snow last week. So maybe we need to change the name to Snow something here at Santiam because they got
Here we
6
go.
feet of snow. Anyway, that's just my commissioner comment on, yeah, that came out of nowhere, I believe. Anyway, so you made the motion and I will second it with pulling item number 5.
I was just acknowledging pulling it, but yeah, I'll make that the motion to get clear. And then also I do have one slight edit on the minutes.
Okay,
Would you
Great.
like to? Well, do you want to make that edit before you?
Yeah, well, that'll be real clear here. So February 25th, one of the bullet items and other items, board meeting minutes says Commissioner DeBonne also raised a question about future consideration regarding information, the manufacturer of the courthouse mechanical unit. But I think that was Commissioner Dare started that conversation. I mean, it'd be nice to know if they were manufactured here, but I'm just thinking Commissioner Dare brought that up faster
Thank
than I
you.
did.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBonne.
You're welcome. So yeah, that'll be a move consent agenda minus item number 5
With the modification to the meeting.
with that modification.
Okay, and seconded?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but we had a motion and before the amendment to the minutes was made, so just making sure we're caught up. Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Okay, so item number 5 has been pulled from our consent agenda. A fourth amendment to ground lease with Mountain View Community Development for Redmond Safe Parking Program.
So I don't know that we need to discuss it too much. I just won't be voting in support of it. And then also the administrative approval for future extensions is something that I don't know we discussed. But as I say, we don't need to go deep into it. I'm just.
Okay, so you want to pull it, but you don't need to discuss it. Okay, Commissioner Dare, do you have any thoughts, questions, comments about item number 5?
I had said that only approving it for 1 year. Rick Russell happens to be running for commissioner, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with the program if he's so elected. And then the extensions, yes, I don't believe that was discussed either, Commissioner DeBonne. So,
Just real
yes.
quickly,
Christie's available.
Deschutes County Property Management. So at the February 25th meeting, I did mention about doing administrative approval for the amendment. So I just wanted to clear that up. And the board seemed supportive. The board was supportive at that time.
And the extension that has been written up here is for 1 year, as noted, Commissioner Dare.
Right.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm just, honestly, it might be important for the board to stay engaged.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion for a modified agreement then, or a modified amendment?
Yes, I would do that. I would say item number 1, yes, extending it for 1 year until March 31st, 2027. But that future extensions, I think we need to bring that back.
Okay. So do you want to see that in an amended agreement, or do you want to strike that from the agreement and move ahead right now?
Let's strike it from this agreement. And, I'm happy if you want to bring it back, but I honestly don't remember that. And I think that's something that deserves some comment.
Okay.
Yeah, can you clarify, do you recall? Because I think you and I corresponded about that.
Yeah, I don't think it was, I believe Commissioner Adair requested just a 1-year extension and for it to be brought back to the board. And as far as the administrative approvals, I don't believe that there was a consensus amongst the board to support that.
Consensus. Okay, thank you.
I do remember it being discussed, but
Correct.
okay. So, so I guess what we could do right now is, modify the amendment, strike out the administrative approvals portion and proceed with that.
Correct. You could move to approve the agreement without any renewal option.
Do I hear a motion for that?
So move.
Okay. I'll second it. And any further discussion?
So this is a zero cost lease and, you know, I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to do something for people in need. But, you know, I do support bringing this back in the future. I haven't been supportive of this location. You know, we do have this under a tax foreclosure. I would have supported putting it on the markets for private ownership. So, and, you know, we got work to do in the world of, you know, housing and homeless. So.
Yeah. I mean, the site is basically a big hole in the ground with a little bit of safe parking around the edge. It's not I don't picture a whole lot of demand for that site, but let's go ahead and move ahead with a 1-year extension at this point. So calling for the vote, Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
No.
and chair votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, moving on to our action items on our agenda. We have a public hearing for ordinance number 2026-008, adopting chapter 2.35 of Title II of the Deschutes County Code regarding contested case procedures.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Council. This is the time set for a public hearing to consider adopting a new chapter 2.35 to Title II of the Deschutes County Code. This creates a contested case hearing process for public and environmental health matters, typically dealing with restaurants, food vendors, pools, things of that nature where we administer programs for OHA. We're compelled to have an internal contested case process. We've borrowed from a section of the contracting code that really isn't a good fit. As we indicated during the work session a few weeks ago, the staff person that had kind of patched that together for 25 years or so retired recently, and it was a good time to clean this up.
Right. And we did have a significant discussion of this item before. So well, let's go ahead and do the public hearing first, and then we can have discussion amongst the board. So at this time, we will open a public hearing on ordinance number 2026-008. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak about this contested case code change? Kim, is there anyone online with their hand raised? Okay, seeing none, we can close the public hearing and begin deliberations on this item. Would my fellow commissioners like to start the discussion or make a motion?
Well, I'll acknowledge this is a new section of code, you know, 2.35, 3 subsections, defining the contested case procedures like our legal counsel pointed out here. But it seems very businesslike to be able to say, okay, if, you know, we're escalating non-compliance, violation, this is the process, and it's clearly written out in county code now. So I'm supportive.
Is that a motion?
I will move first and second reading by title only of ordinance number 2026-008, adopting chapter 2.35 to Title II of the Deschutes County Code.
And I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll just say that it's very interesting hearing the background on this policy change. You know, we haven't had really complicated contested case situations with environmental health in the past, but it's always good to be prepared for what might come and have a good policy and procedure laid out for us. So thanks to staff for setting that all up.
But I think the other part of this is instead of saying, out in the field, something that's out of compliance or, a violation that's possible out there, this gives us a path instead of saying, well, I'll be back in 6 weeks. Make sure you do better next time. And if it just keeps going on and on and on, this is the next step.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. If there's no further deliberation, then we can move to a vote. Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So now we will do the first reading of the title. Ordinance number 2026-008, an ordinance adopting Chapter 2.35 Contested Case Procedures to Title II of the Deschutes County Code. And with that,
Read it one more time.
oh, that's right. It's the first and the second reading. Okay, the second reading. Ordinance number 2026-008, an ordinance adopting Chapter 2.35 Contested Case Procedures to Title II of the Deschutes County Code. Right. Is there a further motion for emergency adoption?
Yes, move emergency adoption of ordinance number 2026-008 to take effect immediately.
I will second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I'll just acknowledge emergency adoption clauses here just for the clarity of the moment here. It is adopting a new subsection and it could be appealed in 90 days still, or what's the, if there was an appeal of this, because the acknowledging the emergency adoption,
General law matters, so it'd be a 60-day
60 day. Yeah.
challenge it.
So, but yeah, as I say, I mean, we're not seeing that out there. Just acknowledging emergency adoption is a tool that we're using here today. That's all.
Okay. With that, we can call for the vote. Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and chair votes yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 9, consideration of first reading of ordinance 2026-007 Tumalo RV Park text amendment. Hi, Audrey.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Audrey Stewart, Associate Planner with Community Development. The item before you is first reading of ordinance 2026-007, which is an ordinance approving an amendment to Chapter 1867 of Deschutes County Code. This is regarding an applicant-initiated text amendment to allow a new RV park as a conditional use within the Tumalo Commercial District. The proposed amendments would modify the text of Deschutes County Code, but would not approve an RV park on a specific property. Any future development of an RV park would still be subject to property-specific review through a conditional use permit and site plan review. The board held a continued public hearing on February 11th. At the close of that hearing, the board deliberated and voted 2-1 to approve this application. Your packet includes draft board findings, which have gone through several rounds of edits with planning staff and legal counsel. There's a suggested motion in your packet, and I'm also available for any questions from the board.
Yeah, so as I say, this may be a split decision here. I do support this, just kind of supporting what we're looking at here. Pages 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the proposed text amendment in red, talks about dialing in what a possible recreational vehicle park would look like. Recreational vehicle park was always a conditional use in the Tumalo commercial district already. So I'm just pointing out, we've got a lot of feedback saying, what are you approving this park for? And we haven't quite done that. So
Yeah, I just want to clarify for everyone again that approving this text amendment is not equal to approving an RV park in the Tumalo Commercial District. Approving this text amendment means that we're saying that in a commercial zoned area, it's reasonable to look at an RV park proposal under a conditional use application process, and evaluate whether that is a suitable and compatible use in that area based on a whole variety of conditions, including and maybe most importantly, community input from the nearby area. So again, this is just changing the texts of our code to allow the question to be asked, not an approval. Any further discussion?
With that, I'll move approval of first reading of ordinance number 2026-007 by title only.
And I can second that. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Calling for the vote. Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
No,
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
So
First reading.
first reading. Yes. Always got to do.
I'll in 2 weeks for second reading.
Okay. Well, let me do the first. Do you want to sit for while I do the first reading? Like, you don't have to. It's okay. But ordinance number 2026-007, an ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 18 zoning ordinance to amend the development standards for recreational vehicle parks in the Tumalo Commercial District. We'll see you for second read.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 10. Now we're getting into our meatier items for the day.
Here's the meat of it right here.
Yeah, the draft
a reading all by
transportation
itself.
safety action plan is quite a document.
Good afternoon, board. Commissioner Dare from afar. Chris Doty, Road Department Director, will do quick introductions here. There might be a new face up here you don't know.
Not me, Cody Smith, county.
Blaine Ruck, Senior Transportation Engineer with the Road Department.
I see we gave the guy that's going to do the most speaking the tiniest microphone down there.
There you go.
We fumbled that already. Board, I'm going to kind of kick this off and then hand it to mostly Blaine, a little bit of Cody on color commentary to walk us through the Transportation Safety Action Plan. This is an update to our 2019 TSAP, as we call it. This study is funded through a federal grant we received from the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. This is a culmination of a lot of work by this team, a consultant team, a diverse group of stakeholders as a part of a working group. And then there were several public outreach opportunities and virtual open houses that were held to get input on the TSAP. At the end, we're going to ask you to approve a resolution to adopt the study, both as a requirement of the grant and really to tee us up for future funding opportunities at the state and federal level. But more importantly, is really a commitment to our goal of reducing fatal and serious injury crashes in our system. So with that, I'll turn it over to the team here to walk us through the TSAP.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, Blaine Ruck from the Road Department again. So here to present to the board on our Transportation Safety Action Plan update. So jumping right in, what is the Transportation Safety Action Plan, or TSAP as it's otherwise known? So this is basically a comprehensive multidisciplinary planning document that we use at the Road Department to enforce safety on the county road system. This plan is consistent with the US DOT safe system approach, which is represented from this graphic here on the right. Basically, what this plan does is look at reported crash data to evaluate different trends and identify prominent issues within the reported crash data to help inform safety strategies. So this plan will basically identify a broad range of projects, policies, and programs, which I'll get to in just a minute. But ultimately, the plan acts as a decision-making framework for the road department to help prioritize safety improvement strategies on our road system. And secondly, it also helps us stay eligible for federal and state funding opportunities. So yeah, getting more into the policies and programs. So the plan kind of firstly identifies a range of safety improvement projects on the road system through kind of a data-driven approach by looking at that crash data that I mentioned previously. Also helps us to develop different policies and programs that we can uphold as a department. Another component of our effort with the TSAP update was to perform school area safety audits to identify safety issues that might be prevalent in the vicinity of rural schools on the county road system. So just a little more background on the TSAP. So the TSAP that's currently in place was adopted in 2019. It's been some time, so an update is needed because since then we've performed several safety improvement projects on the road system. And there's also a whole set of new data that we can look at in order to identify different safety trends. And we're also defining a new study area as part of the TSAP update. So previously we looked at, we included the cities of La Pine, Sisters, and Redmond in our TSAP. This time we're just looking specifically at the rural county road system outside of city limits. And this project is funded, as Chris mentioned, through the Safe Streets and Road for All grant program.
So Blaine, what you just mentioned that La Pine, Sisters, and Redmond were included in the 2019 TSAP, but not in this one. Are there parallel processes that are addressing transportation safety in those cities, or when we get to 10-year mark from 2019, we'll think about that or something?
So with the 2019 TSAP that we did, and we had done that one with actually a state grant, an ODOT grant, whereas the SS4A grant, this is a federal grant. That was kind of that was the baseline TSAP for the county. Bend MPO completed their initial TSAP concurrently with that in 2019 with that same effort. So Bend MPO TSAP was obviously covering City of Bend as well as the MPO area, the area within the MPO boundary as a whole. We were capturing the remainder of the county with our TSAP with the initial one. 5 years into the future now, counties and municipalities adopting their own TSAPs has become much more prevalent. The thought here is that the cities of Redmond, Sisters, La Pine should now be composing and adopting their own transportation safety action plans. So,
okay. So should we be encouraging that, or?
We should be, and we are. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Well, we can do it at the commission to council level as well.
Great. Okay, so just to talk a little bit more about the purpose of the TSAP update. So this is a safety planning document that's used extensively by our department, as I've alluded to. Ultimately, we are updating this TSAP to be eligible for state and federal grant opportunities and their requirements to have a safety action plan. Also to stay up to date with the current safety crash trends, as well as different new and emerging safety improvement countermeasures, and also just to stay congruent with state and federal safety objectives. And ultimately, the overarching goal of the TSAP is to eliminate roadway fatal and serious injury crashes on the Deschutes County road system. So early on in the TSAP process, we began by analyzing existing crash data. So we looked at the 5-year period between 2018 and 2022, which was the most current data at the time of our plan development when we kicked off this project. So this crash data has a slew of attributes associated with it. I highlighted a few here, but the ultimate goal is to just identify the predominant crash patterns associated with the crash data along county roads.
I just want to note here, 2018 to 2022 may not sound that recent to some. So we began this process in 2024, and at that time, 2022 crash data was the most recent crash data that's available to us through the DMV. Usually, there's about a year and a half to 2 year lag in crash data becoming available through that office.
Yeah, so just to highlight a few notable statistics from that effort. So there were more than 2,000 crashes on county roads reported within that 5-year period. 22 of those crashes resulted in a fatality. 150 crashes resulted in a serious life-altering injury. And unfortunately, that points to 24 human lives lost as part of this analysis period. So that just underscores the need for this safety action plan to help to bring these numbers down and ultimately bring the fatal number to 0. So looking a little bit at some of the crash types that we observed in the data. So by far, the majority of the crash types were attributable to roadway and lane departures, as well as intersection-related crash types. So you can see those statistics here. Also, I just want to highlight in this pie chart on the right kind of shows all of the different crash types as a proportion of the total number of crashes. You'll notice that fixed object crashes is a particularly high proportion in that chart. And the reason I'm pointing to that is just to highlight why we do vegetation removal and management in the county road right-of-way to eliminate some of those fixed object hazards to help to avoid those in the future.
Is that what most of the fixed objects are, trees, or is it the vegetation is obstructing people's view so that they crash into something else?
Trees are a lot of them. Sometimes it's fence posts, power poles, rock outcroppings, other things, but trees are certainly a contender for first place.
Okay.
So log that away, if you will. When we do get emails occasionally from constituents who are upset, that we took down some trees in the right of way. More people die every year from running off the road and hitting trees than died on September 11th. And, we take that effort pretty serious.
And one other question. So the slide you just showed, 2,175 crashes on county roads. A number of the crash hotspots that are covered in the draft TSAP are state highway plus county road intersections. And so are we, our data is not looking at state highways, but it is looking at intersections, or it does include state highways?
We are including crashes that occurred at the intersection of state highway and county roads. So technically, maybe the crash didn't happen in our right of way, but it's still at that intersection with a county road. So we are including that in our data.
Got it. But if a crash happens on Highway 20, not at an intersection, then that's not in our data.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, further highlighting.
I'm sorry. Let me amend that slightly. We did address effectively all crash data in the rural unincorporated Deschutes County. So in the appendix of the TSAP in our tech memo number 1, which was our existing conditions analysis, we do include numbers, the data for crashes that were occurring on all roads in unincorporated Deschutes County. But then we hone in on just what's happening on the Deschutes County road network and focus on what our strategies need to be as a department and in conjunction with other community partners for addressing those numbers on our road system.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, to further continue the discussion of our crash data analysis, so we wanted to highlight some of the driver behavior oriented factors that we observed. So speeding being one of the most prominent. So you can see here that speeding is accounting for more than 1/3 of all fatal, serious, and injury crashes on the county road system, as well as impairment and improper use of protective equipment, also making up a pretty large proportion of those as well. Also wanted to highlight vulnerable road users. So a vulnerable road user is a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or a motorcyclist. So you can see here that we wanted to note that motorcycles make up a pretty surprising number of fatal and serious injury crashes as well in that data.
Also, just highlight the fact that, kind of the overarching thought is that, certainly as it relates to roadway departure is distracted driving. That's a very difficult statistic to have show up in a crash report. And so, I think it's well understood that that's a big cause. However, that's something that isn't that well measured to any degree of accuracy.
Yeah. And when we use in a lot of ways, I would consider somebody who's looking at their phone impaired. But when we use the term impairment, we are talking specifically about substance use.
Correct. Drugs or alcohol.
Okay. So yeah, as part of that safety analysis, we screened our network to kind of identify the highest concentrations of serious, fatal and serious injury crashes on the county road network. And to do that, we used what's called the equivalent property damage only performance measure, which is a federally accepted performance measure that allows for comparison and ranking of different sites on the same basis, regardless of their crash severity. And the goal of doing this is to develop the county's high injury network, which is basically a locational map showing the highest proportion or frequency of serious crashes that are occurring. And just to further discuss that, so we looked at both intersections and road segments. So this figure here is highlighting the most prominent intersections that were identified as part of that analysis. So the top 1% sites being shown there with the red symbology. And then similarly for county road segments shown here. And so using that information, we were able to prioritize some safety improvement projects on the county road network, particularly focusing on intersection improvements. And we kind of subdivided those into two different categories. So the first category, the first 5 shown there, we developed conceptual safety improvements as part of the TSAP. And the reason for doing that is then we have something to point to in a potential funding application. Everything is kind of planning level analysis and placement of different traffic control devices and other improvements. The remaining 5 we identified for systemic improvement strategies. So systemic treatments being safety treatments that aren't necessarily specific to one location, but can be applied kind of network wide on the county road network.
And I just want to note with this, if we go back to that list real quick, this list of projects that we scoped and developed concepts for with the TSAP, these aren't necessarily our highest severity crash sites. These are our highest severity crash sites where we don't already have a project that we've either recently delivered, because keep in mind, there's that lag in the crash data. Our top rated site was the intersection US 20 Ward Hamby, where in 2022 we completed a roundabout, or ODOT completed a roundabout project. So, a lot of those red dots that were on the previous map, we've either already completed a project, we have a project in development right now, or we have a project that's identified in the county's capital improvement plan. So we wanted to focus on, okay, well, what's left from the list now that we haven't developed a concept for, projects that we haven't scoped yet, so we could focus our attention with this effort and the funding that we received on those projects.
Cody, it's Commissioner Adair. Isn't Freyer Road and Highway 20 on the list now?
That is correct, yes. And that is one we had already developed a concept for. In fact, we have a couple cycles ago, we attempted to receive an SS4A implementation grant to build a project there. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful.
Thank you.
Okay, just to give you a little more context on what a systemic safety improvement is. So this highlights just a few of the systemic safety improvements in our toolbox that we commonly use. So these are classified as kind of lower cost improvements that can be easily deployed with minimal efforts in a variety of locations and roadway contexts. And so we're actually using these quite often. So when we're doing any type of pavement preservation project, we're looking at some of the crash data that's highlighted in TSAP and seeing if there's any of these strategies that we can implement kind of on annual basis. So. I also mentioned that school area safety audits, so I just wanted to quickly take a moment to enumerate that slightly. So we included this in our TSAP scope just to address some of the safety concerns in the rural school areas. We did these safety audits in conjunction with school district staff for Ben Lapine Schools and Redmond School District. So essentially what this entailed was doing a walking safety audit with kind of a big multidisciplinary team just to identify key nodes within the school area network where, safety improvements are warranted based on the experiences of school staff and other stakeholders. So, and then from the improvements we identified, we're also categorizing those according to short and long term, and also according to the implementation cost. And so this figure here, I know it's very hard to read, but it's just meant to demonstrate a deliverable from that effort, which is just highlighting the location and type of different safety improvements that should be contemplated for areas within the school network. So as an example, this is the Lapine Elementary Middle High School corridor in the city of Lapine.
And can I ask, so I'm trying to connect dots in my head here. Are these school area safety audits kind of the origin of Safe Routes to Schools projects? I mean, is this where a lot of those ideas come from?
Well, they would be, yes. So the school area safety audit, this was kind of a unique thing. This is not generally a component of a TSAP. This is something we wanted to do that we kind of felt was long overdue for the school zones that are in our county road system. This also is kind of the one exception of some work that we did do in the city of Lapine. We did conduct the school zone safety audits for the school campuses within the Lapine city limits because they are adjacent to county roads. But this, in fact, this example right here was one we were actually working on teeing up for a Safe Routes to School application for this year. Doesn't look like that's going to happen because that program's going away, at least for the time being. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we didn't do this piece, the school area safety audits, in 2019.
That's correct. That wasn't part of our original TSAP.
Yeah. So doing it this year would be a great opportunity to tee our community up for some Safe Routes to Schools projects if there was funding this year.
There are certainly components of these projects that we identified, or these school zone improvements that we still plan to implement. Just some of it's going to be on a smaller scale, but
yeah. Thank you. Great.
Okay, so kind of getting away from the engineering approaches to improving road safety. So we also contemplated several non-infrastructure, non-engineering type measures. So most of those kind of entail multidisciplinary actions that can be undertaken through coordination with other agencies, NGOs, things of that nature. And this is just a few of the focus areas that we identified as part of those, but they're detailed very sufficiently in the TSAP document.
Do you want to flag one of those real quick? It's one of the Central Oregon Transportation Safety Advisory Committee. This is the COIC group that's kind of getting everyone together in the region to pool funds for safety messaging and other programs, that non-infrastructure investment side that we'd like to also participate in within the road department's upcoming budget. We have allocated a certain amount to invest, as part of this TSAP direction, to help support that effort. So it's not just happening in Deschutes County, it's messaging that, spreads beyond our border a little bit, but it's a way to really, I think, take advantage of some synergy, in the safety space already.
And then additionally, we completed a pretty robust public engagement outreach effort as part of the TSAP update process. So we assembled a safety working group who is present to review each stage of our TSAP development. So that would be the existing conditions analysis as well as the safety improvement strategy development. So you can see the list here of some of the organizations that we invited to be a part of that group. In addition to that, we also performed multiple virtual open house events to outreach to the public to solicit feedback regarding what we observed for our network screening results in our May 2025 virtual open house. as well as some of the safety strategies we identified as part of our development process in virtual open house number 2, which took place this winter. And then as part of that, we also coordinated news releases through Deschutes County to outreach to members of the public via various news outlets to kind of get the best reach and inform the public that this opportunity existed. So yeah, with that, we'd like to introduce Resolution 2026-011 to adopt the TSAP. Along with adopting the TSAP, this would commit the county to a goal of 0 fatal and serious injury crashes on the county road system, with a more targeted goal of a 50% reduction by 2050. And would also commit us to a partnership with community stakeholders, similar to what Chris was mentioning, for enforcement and education strategies moving forward. So
I just want to emphasize, this isn't a legislative matter here. We're not, this isn't an amendment or an update to our comp plan. This is more just us demonstrating our commitment to reducing and eliminating serious injury and fatal crashes on our road network. We're doing this because that's certainly our top priority in operating our county road system. We're doing this because it's part of the process here with the SS4A grant, ultimately for implementation of the TSAP and eligibility for future SS4A and other state and federal safety projects to make us eligible for those programs.
And with that, I'll conclude. Happy to answer any questions.
I just want to repeat what our road director, Chris Doty, was saying on KBND, that 37% of the fatalities are caused by speed. If everyone would just please slow down a little bit and save a life. I know the COAC meeting, we're working on fatality reduction also in what we're presenting. So I really appreciate the breadth of this report. Thank you so much, Blaine.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I'd be curious about the future of the Safe Streets for All program. Do we know whether that's something that is being considered for the next federal surface transportation bill, or is it the kind of thing that they will have that same program and it'll have a completely different name?
So there's supposed to be one more round of that this year. This was
Okay.
supposed to be last year for the SS4A program. So theoretically, we haven't seen a NOFO for this year's funding opportunity. Theoretically, there's going to be one this year. That's one more chance for, we mentioned the remaining cities in our county who don't yet have TSAPs in place, an opportunity for them to apply for a planning grant to put together their own TSAPs. Hopefully our opportunity to apply for some implementation grant to deliver one or more of the projects we've identified in our plan. But beyond that, in terms of the SS4A program carrying forward to whatever the next federal transportation bill looks like, remains to be seen. I would think there's going to be some program in that. It might go by a different acronym, but I think this has been a pretty good one nationwide.
Yeah, we both at NACO and the NACE level did a lot of advocacy for that in February. There's a lot that goes into these surface transportation bills, but a lot that don't really come down to counties. This is one of those bills that is very advantageous for local government. And so I think there's strong advocacy. It'd be a waste for the investment in all these plans to be made, but then not follow through with the implementation, of those plans. And so that's a talking point that we drilled home, to those who would listen, and we'll continue to do so as that bill is drafted and published.
Yeah. And if, the NACO transportation policy advisor, he said there's a decent chance that we won't get to a new surface transportation bill before the last one, the expiration date. And in which case we might have a 1-year extension or a 1-year extension and another 1-year extension. In those scenarios, when they just sort of continue the last transportation bill for another year, would that generate another cycle of grant funding for Safe Streets for All?
I would presume that to some degree.
I
What,
mean, yeah, when in other scenarios, when that's happened with past federal transportation bills, you know, many of those funding opportunities are carried forward with that extension and come around again the following year. So,
Right. Okay. Good to know. And this isn't the only way to fund projects that are recommended out of the TSAP, but you know, it's good to track our opportunities.
yeah, there's also, you know, here in the state of Oregon, we have the ARTS program, All Road Transportation Safety Program, which is funded through through other federal funds. Those are funded through federal HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, that comes around every STIP cycle. So right now that's every 3 years. So Deschutes County, we've been fairly successful in getting projects out of that. This year we have something like 28 new speed feedback signs going up on various arterial and collector routes around the county. Next STIP cycle, we have some intersection improvement projects that were selected that we expect to be. So yeah, there are other funding opportunities out there for these kind of safety improvements.
Yeah. Well, all the more reason to get our plan adopted quickly.
So do we think of this as a new transportation safety action plan published 26 or an update to the other one, you know, from 5 years ago?
Yes.
Kind of both. Okay. Well,
So
I mean, because the first time we did it, it was like, oh, yeah, this is it. Because I've been using that for years now. It's like when we do improvements, it's going to be, you know, crash safety and capacity improvements in support of system, safety and flow.
with the 2019 TSAP, we didn't go through an actual resolution to adopt that in front of the board. We kind of, you know, as staff, we finished that document and said, okay, this will just kind of be our guiding light for this stuff moving forward. When we went through the TSP update process here a couple of years ago, the TSP makes significant reference to this TSAP. So there's kind of a implicit adoption of the prior TSAP that happened with the TSP adoption.
So then we have a maintenance program, maintenance first, keep the good roads we have in the best shape we can, and then system development charges and project dollars, and this will guide the project dollars basically. Is this kind of the front end of that?
Maintenance stuff. I mean, Blaine kind of alluded to when we're going out doing pavement preservation projects, we're looking at those road segments. Okay,
Oh, okay.
what is the crash history here? What kind of things are happening on this segment? What of these low cost countermeasures can we pull from our toolbox for improved delineation, improved visibility, whatever it is. So not just necessarily implementing these, the bigger projects, but implementing the smaller countermeasures where they're money well spent.
That's great. Yeah, so we'll be able to improve the system for safety purposes as we do maintenance projects.
Yeah.
Great.
And just to dig in a little bit more to that relationship between the TSP and the TSAP. So I think I heard you say that there are recommendations of the TSAP that are already in our transportation system plan. Or will we adopt this TSAP and then we'll crosswalk some of that stuff over to the next transportation system plan?
Yes, there's also, I don't remember off the top of my head. I mean, there's actually a specific policy in the TSP that points at us looking at our TSAP and updating our TSAP frequently. So frequently, we generally would be about every 5 years, which is what we're on. That's the cycle we're on right now.
Okay.
But yeah.
And then what's the connect? So
they arrive in our budget document in our 5-year CIP together, projects pulled from the two different sources.
That was the other thing I was going to ask about. Okay, the connection to the CIP. So,
yeah.
So that there's kind of a dialogue between this TSAP and the CIP. Right. Okay. Further questions or comments? If not, we could entertain a motion.
So move approval of resolution number 2026-011.
And I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded, motion to adopt the Deschutes County Transportation Safety Action Plan. We had a lot of discussion. Anything else before we go to a vote?
I just
just-
think of this one of those tools, one of those documents that, if citizens are very engaged in what we do and why we do it, it gives us a foundation. It's even something they can flip through if they like.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be very exciting to see this adopted and then, recommendations, priority projects implemented as fast as possible and hopefully to see some real improvements, progress, gains in terms of reducing serious and fatal crashes. So with that, we'll go to the vote. Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Thanks again so much for your work.
Thank you.
All right. Same crew is going to stick with us for another item, right? Okay, item number 11, update on the South Century Drive, Sun River Corridor Intersections Improvement Project.
Yep, we'll do the same thing. I'll kick it off and sit back and these gentlemen will kind of walk us through where we're at. We're excited to update the board on the status of this project. As you're aware, this is a very ambitious and multifaceted project and a pretty unique transportation corridor with unique issues. Given the impact to various stakeholders and residents in the community and Sun River in general, we've conducted, I think, what we consider to be probably the most robust public process and outreach around a road department project that certainly we've done in my 14-year tenure and as far back as I can remember in terms of really getting concepts put together, outreaching to the public and so on, taking input back, making changes, bringing it back again. We feel we've arrived at a concept that both meets the goals of the project and addressing the safety in the area, capacity, and then the circulation issues in that unique, Sun River Business Park area. But a concept that also has the support of the community. And you'll see some of the results of the open house dialogue that we've had. You have a little bit of, I think, stakeholder discussion probably this Friday with the Sun River Owners Association that we met with them numerous times and incorporated as best we could things into the design to address their concerns. Cody's going to walk us through the process, the outcomes of the process, and then next steps.
Okay. Yeah, just starting with the kind of the general scope of this project. So the overall project includes construction of intersection improvements at 3 different intersections along South Century Drive in the Sun River area. These projects are the intent of these projects is to address intersection safety and traffic operation. Phase 1 of the project included the intersection at South Century Drive and Huntington Road. More specifically, the construction of a roundabout at that intersection. That project is under construction right now. I'll get to some photos of that here in a minute. Phase 2 of the project is in regard to the intersections of South Century Drive with Venture Lane and South Century Drive at Spring River. I'd also included the intersection of Venture Lane and Venture Loop. So actually a 3rd intersection there in phase 2. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. So phase 2 of the project, we're currently in the preliminary design stage, shooting for an anticipated construction start in early calendar year 2027. Through 2025, we got through, again, the fairly robust public involvement process, which we'll talk about some more here. So first, real quick, the intersection of South Century Huntington Drive. So this is currently, but not for long, was a 3-leg stop control intersection. Had a history of severe injury crashes. It was identified as one of our top crash sites in our 2019 Deschutes County TSAP. As such, the project carried forward into was identified in the county transportation system plan as a high priority project. As I alluded to, project is currently under construction. We're anticipating construction to be wrapped up here in the month of June. So things should be open to, we're anticipating traffic will be using the new roundabout here by the month of May. So picture there.
Is there was there any kind of patterns to the crashes that were happening there? Just kind of like a typical scenario, or lots of different things happening?
Off the top of my head, I don't have a firm. I mean, in general, at a three-way intersection like that, generally we're going to see turning movement angle type crashes, maybe rear end crashes. I don't remember what the most prevalent was particular at this intersection, but in the general, roundabout solves all of those problems. So
Yeah.
Going south, there's no stop sign, and then taking a left to go north in front of it. That was the most dangerous scenario.
There's been a stop sign up.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying before this project, it's been like that for a generation, and that was the scenario.
You're gonna say
Oh, Commissioner Bone beat me to it. So
okay.
There you go. I've been through it many times.
So now we'll start looking at the intersection of South Century Drive and Spring River Road. So this intersection also has a history of injury crashes. This intersection was identified in our current TSAP effort, the one we just talked about, if you guys remember that. Likewise, improvement of this intersection was identified in the most recent update to the County Transportation System Plan. As we got into more analysis on this intersection as part of this project, what became apparent is we had some traffic operation issues at this intersection under a future no-build scenario. So in other words, if we do nothing at this intersection for the next 20 years, the more near future, we're approaching operational failure at this intersection. And what failure means, it doesn't mean the intersection just ceases to work. What it means is we start getting excessive queue lengths, longer wait times. We get under, we categorize the operations of intersections by level of service, was effectively a measure of how long is someone waiting at the intersection. For a stop controlled intersection like this, when we get below about a 35-second wait, that puts us into a level of service that puts us at a level of service of E, or it could put us at F if the wait is 50 seconds or more. When we start getting into that realm, that's basically, we're saying there's kind of some serious issues with the flow of traffic there. We get to level of service F, we're saying there's failure. So, in that analysis of this intersection, we did come up with operational failure that would occur in the 20 years lifespan. Looking at the intersection of South Century and Venture Lane, and then also the Venture Lane, Venture Loop intersection. This intersection, kind of us really first starting to take a look at this intersection came up with the transportation system plan update process, where this was one of two intersections in the county that on the big network screening analysis showed operational failure in the 20-year horizon period for the TSP. At the Venture intersection, we've got operational failure in the today, basically during in some scenarios at peak hours, and at Venture and South Century intersection, we've got operational failure, future operational failure in the analysis scenario. Those issues get exacerbated during the kind of the peak summer tourism days, weeks out there. There's some big problems here with the proximity of the intersections out there. We have very short block intersections there. You can see that on the picture there. That block between South Century Drive and Venture Loop is barely a bus length long there, as you can see in that photo. So that definitely leads to some operational challenges out there. The picture there you're seeing, I believe that was a school pickup time. Is that?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So traffic backed up all the way back to the school, basically. So yeah, as has been mentioned, this has been I would say by far the most robust public engagement process we've done for a capital improvement project for a county road project. Our first real public engagement effort was actually in early 2025. We did some stakeholder meetings with kind of some select stakeholders in the Sun River area. So Sun Rivers Owners Association staff, Sun River Resort staff, Sun River Chamber of Commerce staff, and then some of the business owners there in the business park, primarily who we had kind of identified early on were probably going to be impacted by the project in some way. So after those meetings, that was kind of our first touch point in terms of public engagement. In April of 2025, we conducted our first online open house. I'm going to go through the things we showed in these open houses here in just a minute, but first online open house, not exactly sure how many people actually went and looked at the open house. We know we got responses, comments back from 288 participants. Second online open house that we held just this last December, we had 175 respondents. Okay, so looking at the concept development and kind of what we put out to the public in that first open house. For the intersection at South Century Spring River, we had two different alternatives that we presented. The concept one was what we called the centered roundabout. So that was basically a roundabout that was the center of which was right at the current center of the intersection. Concept two was also a roundabout concept, but with that concept, we had the roundabout pushed further to the north. That property to the north, there's a common area for the Sun River Owners Association. The thought with this concept is building a majority of the roundabout off the current road, could potentially provide some advantages for construction staging. You could build a lot of the roundabout while the existing road, the existing intersection was still under traffic. After we put this out to the open house, in our open house, from the feedback we got, about 61% of respondents were in favor of the centered roundabout as opposed to the northerly or the north shifted roundabout. We got definitely I'd say the most robust comments we got were from the Sun Rivers Owners Association themselves, who had some concerns about what they viewed as kind of an encroachment onto their common area and their property, not just the impact of their property directly, but the notion of pushing traffic closer to private properties within Sun River. So with those, the concept number one was the one we kind of moved forward with in 2025 for further refinements as we moved towards our second open house. So then looking at the intersection of South Century and Venture Lane, we had four concepts that we developed. Concept number one was referred to as the peanut roundabout. Most of the feedback I heard, the only people that liked that one really were because they thought the name was cute. Otherwise, just in terms of operations and from the public's perspective, what they thought user experience would be, that wasn't a very popular one. Second was the concept number two was the single lane roundabout with a left turn lane. And this is one of two concepts that introduced a secondary connection from South Century Drive to Venture Loop, which would create some redundancy in the system there, give traffic more different ways to disperse, give people some more options for how they circulate in the business park. Concept number three was the teardrop roundabout, which you can see there, which is kind of a roundabout coupled with a mini roundabout, and those are oriented east-west. West is up on the screen there in these pictures. And then concept number four was the barbell roundabout concept, which is basically two roundabouts. Similar to concept number two, creates that secondary connection from South Century Drive to the Venture Loop, creating that redundancy. from the public feedback, it appeared the public favored, from the first open house, the public favored concept 2, the single roundabout with left turn lane, and concept 4, the barbell roundabout. Some of the feedback we got on concept 2 was it was a fairly simple design, appeared to have less impact to adjacent properties. And there were some critical comments about the notion of introducing a left turn lane south of the roundabout there, south of the proposed roundabout. Concept 4, people generally seem to like better. Some of the public comments included better functionality, better access to the business park. So anyway, so concepts 2 and 4 are what we advanced through 2025 as we were moving towards our second open house. So I talked a little bit about some of the refinement we did at the Spring River intersection as we were moving to open house number 2. And I mentioned before, we got some fairly robust comments from Sun River Owners Association. So a lot of our effort and refinement of this were how could we address Sun River Owners Association's comments? What could we do and what couldn't we do? And so there's a lot of challenges there. We're trying to balance cost and right-of-way impacts to all of the adjacent property owners there. Constructability and staging. How are we going to build this thing? How are we going to keep traffic moving on South Century Drive and Spring River Road during construction? And then another big challenge we have at this location is utilities. We've got Midstate Electric, some of their main transmission lines run through here. Those aren't just as simple as moving power poles, stringing lines further apart between power poles. That there's some impacts here that could potentially lead to having to put main transmission lines underground or have them having to construct bigger tower configurations to keep their main transmission lines aerial. There was also some challenges with Lumen fiber optic network that runs through here, not just a local network, but there's international network lines that run through here that are to have to move those would mean they would have to cut those lines, and that was basically a non-starter with them as we were talking to them. So our refinement process here was effectively to balance all those needs, and ultimately what we came up here with was a kind of a south shifted. So we're not necessarily centered on the current intersection node. We were actually able to shift the roundabout as far south as we could to get it as far away from the Sun River Owners Association property as we could. But still be able to stage construction, still be able to build this and keep traffic moving in here, not have serious impacts on those utilities that run through this corridor right here. Another key component we introduced here with this was the introduction of this berm along the north side of the roundabout that kind of will deflect and shield headlights and noise from the homes that are in Sun River to the north there. So looking at the venture lane concept, so again, we advanced concepts 2 and 4 through refinement, the barbell concept and the single roundabout with turn lane concept. The refinements we did here primarily addressed bicycle and pedestrian crossings. We did get a lot of comments from that first open house about addressing bike and ped crossing at this intersection. Talk a little bit more about the bike and ped stuff here in a moment, but one big ask we got from several people was a grade separated bike ped crossing at this location. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but there's some serious challenges that just don't make that feasible at this location. So with these refined concepts, when we put those back out in open house number 2 this last December, 74% of the respondents preferred the barbell alternative. So with that, the barbell alternative is what we're advancing right now in our preliminary design. So a little more discussion on the bike and ped components of this. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of people that wanted to see a grade separated crossing here, which would not be a bridge over South Century Drive, because that would have a major footprint there. It would be more of a tunnel, but unfortunately there was a lot of constraints there why that wouldn't work here. One of the big ones is just the fact that tunnel would be filled with water year round. We're dealing with high groundwater here to make that crossing work under state and federal standards that we'd have to abide by. We were going, I think, 3 feet below groundwater level, average groundwater level for spring based on our monitoring wells that we installed out there. So spring and summer it'd be full of groundwater, and through the winter it'd be full of ice and snow runoff. So there'd be a considerable cost and maintenance obligation there for some kind of dewatering system to be pumping water out of that thing year round. So what we but we still, knowing this is that those multimodal elements are very important part of the Sun River community on there. We want to make sure we're giving that the emphasis that it deserves. So one thing we are looking at here is highlighting the existing grade separated crossing that exists in Sun River that's being underutilized significantly, and that's at the Sun River or the South Century Drive bridge crossing over the Burlington Northern Railroad. There's actually a multi-use path that goes underneath that. If you follow that route, it's actually a less circuitous route to get from Sun River Village to Sun River Business Park if you're on foot or on bicycle. But there's been kind of a lack of maintenance on that section between Sun River Owners Association and the county. No lighting exists along that alignment, and there's no wayfinding that's directing people to use that. So what we're introducing with this project instead is improvements to that existing route, that existing grade separated crossing, to make that more appealing for users. So a combination of wayfinding between Caldera and the business park and Sun River Village, as well as improvements on the path, which will include lighting and some other components that we're still kind of fleshing out right now. In terms of the actual crossings at the South Century Venture intersection itself, also in that refined concept, we also included more protected pedestrian crossings, so RRFB type push button activated crossings, and more of them. Anything to add? So real quick, just wanted to kind of, recognizing you guys are going to be meeting jointly with the Sun River Owners Association here later this week. As I mentioned, Sun River Owners Association had submitted a letter to road department staff as well as the board back in April after our initial virtual open house. Some of the concerns they expressed in that initial letter, they wanted us to do a better job of explaining the project need and justifying the project. They wanted to make sure we were doing our best to take into consideration the nearby development, particularly in the boundaries of Sun River itself there, not just the business park necessarily. They were pushing us heavily to push that Spring River Road roundabout as far south as we could. Them, like many other people that provided us comments, had concerns with the not including a grade separated crossing at the Venture intersection. And they had some concerns with not so much project outreach, which is what the bullet point says there, but more our outreach when our virtual open house went live. So we took all those comments very seriously. We held a meeting with Sun River Owners Association staff and some of their board October 5th at the road department. Commissioner DeBone, we invited you to that meeting. You were in attendance of that meeting, and so really spent that time talking through their comments and concerns and how we could address them, what we could do, what we couldn't do. As staff, we felt like that was a very fruitful meeting. I think everyone walked away with that. My impression was the Owners Association reps at the meeting felt like they were heard, felt like we were addressing things as best we could, their concerns as best we could. I hope Commissioner DeBone, again, you were in attendance at that meeting. I hope you witnessed the same thing. So with that, I guess I'll also note, as we, we've completed our second virtual open house, we did not receive, another, big thick letter from the owners association with more comments. So, we take that lack of commenting to be a good thing. So real quick, just to look at project cost here. So when we first programmed this project into our CIP, that was in, I'm sorry, I got a typo here. It was fiscal year 25. So that should say 24, 25 right there. We had budgeted the entire project in with a $10.3 million budget. So the phase one of the project, the improvements at the Huntington Road intersection, we pretty well realized our actual costs there as we're getting close to wrapping up construction there. That came in at $1.7 million. We had some pretty healthy competition among bidders on that project. So prior to bidding that out, I think our engineer's estimate, I think we were pushing closer to about $2.5 million total project cost. So we came in a little bit under on that one, which was great. Right now we're looking at a total of $8.6 million is our current projection for the phase two of the project. So right now our projection is we're basically right within budget at $10.3 million. So the next steps, as I said, we're now in the preliminary engineering phase. We're advancing those preferred concepts on to 30% plans that we're anticipating seeing in the month of April from our design consultant team. Once we have those 30% plans in hand, kind of the as we advance that design forward, kind of the other big key project pieces, important parts of the project schedule are going to be our utility coordination and our right-of-way acquisitions. So right now we're targeting having the project out to bid in the late 2026, early 2027 timeframe.
So that's both these intersections is kind of what you're referring to as phase two?
Yeah, the intent. So Spring River Venture is going to be bid out as one project, one set of plans addressing both intersections.
Mm.
That's all I got.
Very good.
So with that, are any questions we could answer?
Now you're prepared for Friday.
Yep, that's where exactly the.
Got to emphasize, we are going to be purchasing right away from the owners association. There are some unique bylaws specific to SROA that have to be complied with that probably pivot us away from a traditional negotiation, and probably careful that we not talk too much about that in our meetings, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've got hopefully that entity on board as best we can. I feel we've got a good consensus from the public on these alignments and final configurations, and it's a great time to actually try to get stuff out to bid. And so, we're excited.
Yeah, commissioners, if I can just share, the team has just done a fabulous job with this, from the engagement, the options, the alternatives, really listening, creating the refinements and the alternatives, and to get to the point that we're at right now is really, really a great place, and just really great work by the team. Thank you.
You.
Do we
So
think of this as capacity improvements, as in the throughput, total number of cars per peak hour, kind of some number?
I wouldn't say so much that. It's more capacity in terms of the intersection operations itself. It's in terms of the when we're talking about capacity of intersection as opposed to the capacity of a road segment, I mean, a 2-lane road segment should have the capacity to carry 24,000 vehicles per day. We don't have anything in the county that's close to that. In fact, this stretch of South Century Drive is our highest traffic volume segment of road out of our entire county road network.
Okay, well,
we've just crested.
That answers the why right there. Yep.
Yeah, we've just crested over 10,000 vehicles
okay.
per day on this segment.
And a lot of the Venture and South Century and Venture Loop, Venture Lane, very painful design in terms of you
Yeah,
have
oh, yeah.
a signalized intersection at Venture South Century that you actually have to drive through another intersection to get to on a green light phase. Toss in the amount of development that's happened in there and redevelopment. It's gotten very funky. That's not a traffic technical term, but it certainly describes, how that works out there. I know the board's received a lot of comments over the years about, what are you going to do down here about this? And so this certainly addresses that. The safety at South Century and Spring River, in terms of that tourist corridor, where people are heading out to Cascade Lakes Highway and the seasonal issues and crashes, resulting there. So it is capacity, and that, it improves that level of service to an acceptable level, which makes it safer, but also dealing with, some of that funky circulation that exists.
We're not going to go one way on the inside of the Venture Lane there. Venture,
The barbell concept gets multiple ways in and out of that park. With school traffic, further complicates that. And now there's a way to leave while school is egressing and not have it, just grind things to a halt there.
And that area is kind of the confluence of commuter traffic on top of tourism traffic. So it can be busy for multiple purposes, very busy.
Yep. And if I could, the pedestrian piece is probably the hardest sell, in all of this. What we're proposing are those rapid flash beacons that you see now, where you hit the button, rapid flash, signage that are highly compliant in terms of the ability to for traffic to recognize and stop. There's 2 phases to get through there. It's different certainly than a push button traffic signal where you get the little white ped guide telling you it's safe to go across. This does involve a little more awareness on behalf of the user, to do a traditional, waiting for traffic to yield crossing maneuver. But we feel it's what we can do here. It's appropriate. Unfortunately that, for the reasons Cody mentioned, we can't get a tunnel in that area to work. You're going to hear, hey, we've got tunnels all over Sun River. They do. That's a different standard. It's also, areas where they've elevated the road to then force that separation that we're just not able to do in this spot either.
So this is an agenda item for us on Friday morning.
Correct.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Chris. It's nice to know that we're not talking about Harper Bridge today. So it sounds like 10,000 vehicles is rather significant, and the sooner we get this done, probably the better. So would love to have hard copies in my inbox tomorrow morning.
I had somebody ask me for rumble strips to slow down the traffic on Huntington and Lapine recently. I said, I don't know if you want that, because it's noisy, right? And we learned that at Harper Bridge.
Well, I see some heads nodding.
Yeah, all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Want to ask?
Oh yeah, get the shade.
Like that shade. There, Chris, you can't do it. It's on a
electronic.
machine. So thank you for
Brenda's a magician.
those public works guys. You tell them you mention something, they want to just do it. Thank you. All right. Item number 12, appointments to the Fair Board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Eric Kropp, Deputy County Administrator.
Thanks, Brenda.
This item's got a little bit complicated. Initially, commissioners were asked to review the 19 applications to rank each of their top 6 and provide that information to staff. And then staff went through the results and invited people for interviews. Initially, Commissioner Adair provided 1 name, and so staff used the information that we had from all 3 commissioners and invited people for the Fair Board interviews. Yesterday, Commissioner Adair and I compared notes, and she indicated that she subsequently, after sending in the 1 name, she actually sent the additional names and sent a text to staff. And we went back and looked at her phone, and she had written the text, but it did not go through. That was the same time that she was traveling, and so it's likely that the cell phone, she didn't have cell phone coverage. It didn't go through. She didn't realize it. So at this point, next steps are up to the board, but what we could do is take the additional names from Commissioner Adair and determine if there's additional interviews based on those scores.
I'm just trying to figure out, so that the 6 people that we interviewed, how different would that list have been if we had the full list from Commissioner Adair earlier?
I haven't seen her list, but there's at least one candidate that would likely have been interviewed.
Well, I support talking to somebody else then, that'd be fine.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if it wouldn't have made much difference in the 6 that we interviewed anyway, then I wouldn't see any need to open this all back up. But if it would have made our list of 6 different, then we could interview another one, or
Yeah, if there's 1 or 2, or
Yeah, I suspect there's at least 1, possibly 2.
Yep.
We can schedule those. We can also update the candidates that were interviewed just so they know the status.
Okay.
I want to apologize. It was after I spent, as Eric said, 24 hours traveling that I did send this text. And unfortunately, it went from both phones, but it didn't go anywhere. So anyway, I do apologize to the group.
Yeah, no. In the world of modern communications, things happen. So, if I could also just ask, so based on the 6 people we did interview and the feedback that we had provided on those people, were there any strong signals, pointing towards particular candidates, or I'm just wondering, if we interview another person, how much could the rankings actually change?
Yeah, it's hard to say because Commissioner Dare hasn't provided her rankings on interviews because she had questions about she was wondering why certain people weren't interviewed, and so she didn't rank them.
Got it. Okay. All right. Yep. So
Fine.
Graph the list together, go back and see if there's 1 or 2 more people who should have made the interview list, and we'll run through it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Item number 13, review draft letter to City of Redmond concerning closure and removal of encampments on city-owned property known as Desert Rise. And I believe that each of us had a chance to engage with the mayor and the city manager yesterday on this topic.
Thank you, Commissioners. Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. So in front of you, you just stated, Chair Chang, we have the draft letter to the city, and we're happy to mark it up based on your feedback and send this off to the city.
So I don't have my copy of it because I did bring it with me. I had it in my hand with the joint meeting with the mayor yesterday. I had there's another copy. I did attend the Redmond Economic Development meeting this morning, Ready. The mayor and I were both there also, and he explained, well, Desert Rise, we got to get folks off of there. Somebody may be coming to purchase some land there. And I pointed out, well, our partnership for trying to move this all forward. But, he's like, doesn't matter. We got to do it. So, we can send him a letter. I don't know that it's going to change much.
Yeah, I would support still sending a letter and doing some targeted outreach to city councilors. I asked the mayor about kind of the perspectives of different councilors, and he thought I was trying to figure out who would be the most amenable to changing their mind. And I said, "Oh no, I want to know who's pushing this the hardest, because that's the person I want to talk to." But he just kind of said that the council was united, and that really a lot of the push for this, it was coming from the police chief, Devin Lewis. So, so it might be appropriate to speak with him as well.
So, as I say, this morning, he said, "Oh, and there's a lot of trash out there, a lot of waste that's going to have to be moved." I don't understand if he, I guess now that I think about it, does he understand? I mean, we moved a half a dozen 30-yard dumpsters on a Saturday morning out of some areas in southern Deschutes County multiple times. So I don't know what the scale of, he's thinking he has more or less than somebody else, because this has happened all over the place. So
Yeah. No, I tried to emphasize that we have had this coordinated planning effort for moving people around, related to Core 3, related to the managed camp, related to the 137 acres. And, we put that in writing and in IGA, and, it was a carefully choreographed dance, really, of, moving lots of people around. And, I am concerned that throwing this, additional chunk of people into the mix, putting, 40, 50 more people in motion, at the same time that we're trying to move all these other people around, that it will make the whole situation a lot more chaotic. And, I said I was concerned that this could result in, people moving from Desert Rise to the 137 acres or to Core 3. And, the response back was, well, those people would be, in motion anyway. And I appreciate the urgency of clearing out and fixing Desert Rise, but I don't think that we need to add another layer of people, 40 or 50 people in motion right now to this already carefully orchestrated plan, because I think that the potential for chaos really increases.
Commissioner Chang, it's Commissioner Adair. Actually,
Yeah.
they admitted to me yesterday, there's probably 90 people there. So, I think sending this letter is a really good idea. They definitely can start with the cleanup if they want to do the cleanup. And that's just kind of telling people that, hey, we are cleaning up, but just to send the letter and give them the time so that we can actually get the managed camp in operation. But they did tell me it was 90. So I was really disappointed to hear that number.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it sounds like there's still support for sending this letter among the board. Is that?
yeah, that's fine. So I was able to see Tobias Reed this morning, Secretary of State. I know he was around here yesterday here at the county building. He just happened to be at the Redmond City Hall this morning. The mayor was meeting with him, and I was just walking by, and I got introduced. I said, "Hey, we've got this situation. 10 years ago, we thought we were going to do a land swap, and then the Department of State Lands came up with a great idea that we would remove people from our property, and that the DSL doesn't have a problem with homeless on their property because we keep them out." I pointed out that the perimeter of the fairgrounds is kind of special, and we make sure to not have people set up there too. So you think you're doing something, but we were probably really doing it. So we got stuck in a really bad spot here, and he just needed to hear me talk about that. And he listened for a while, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've heard about this." And the new director may be a little bit more action oriented for just making things get completed, because it definitely aged here. But and then we went out to the front steps and took a photo for safe elections with the mayor and the Secretary of State and myself. But I was able to get his ear for a few minutes this morning.
Yeah.
One of the DSL members.
Yeah. Secretary Reed was also here in our building.
Yeah.
mid-morning and I caught him while he was here around 11 o'clock or 11:30. And
Today?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw him at 10 o'clock.
And yeah, he made that recommendation to me as well. He said, "Go ahead and send your letter if you like."
The next letter. But
It's
yeah.
the next letter, and he encouraged us to contact the new director directly and have an informal discussion as well. So,
Do we need a motion on this first letter, item number 13?
yeah, I think so. But I guess the first question would be, do we want to modify it at all? I think it was a very thoughtfully drafted letter, and I support kind of the messages and direction that it provides, but open.
So, I mean, I'm motivated. As I say, you can just see I would have taken a different track in a couple areas here, but I'm excited to be able to move forward. I think we're over the hump and on the downhill side of, the long-term unsanctioned camping homeless situation that just kind of kept compounding ever since, legalization and decriminalization and COVID and all, and the housing costs rising, all that stuff. But I think we're on the downhill side of it now. So I'm supportive of this, but I mean, I don't know, any guidance from you guys on the ground here? As I say, I know Eric's hit me at all.
On what?
Well, so it's obvious that, okay, Desert Rise, we're going to do our thing, but we're setting ourselves up as the catch-all. It's like it's going to be county land, resource land on the east side of Redmond. The large land holdings out there are going to be the holding place.
Yeah,
Any
from my
thoughts?
perspective, we've made great progress on the land that the board identified as top priority. So the managed camp footprint, the 21st Street, Core 3, and the DSL land. I think we've done a lot of work to position ourselves so that we can relocate people on the DSL land. What we haven't been able to touch is further east and the code complaint. And we know that through all these processes, a certain percentage of people will relocate to those other county-owned lands. And there's a significant cost that, with the debris buildup. But we've just been focused on the top priority items.
So yeah, so as I say, that is the scenario. We have other resource lands east side of town that's just going to be utilized in a kind of a uncontrolled fashion for a while still. It's just where we're at.
Yep.
And while I was very sympathetic to the concerns of the police chief and the fire chief about things that are happening at Desert Rise, I also just emphasize to them, it's one thing for a fire start to happen at Desert Rise to be detected very quickly and to be responded to very quickly. It's another thing for it to happen a mile and a half to the east, way out in the junipers, and for nobody to detect that fire for a couple of hours, and for the fire to grow really big and be whipped around by the wind and arrive at Desert Rise, as a massive conflagration instead. And so that argument of like, well, there's a lot of safety and fire concerns on Desert Rise. The argument like, well, let's push it way out into the junipers where we don't see it as much and it's harder to respond to. I just don't think that's a good strategy.
Well, and then if you look at Core 3's 300 acres, and then the DSL property is 137 acres. So collectively, roughly 450 acres, that's still in city limits beyond Desert Rise, right? So that they still have, we have lots of issues there, right? So it still affects services like first responders.
And one of the questions I did also ask was, some of these 90 people get pushed out farther east. Whose jurisdiction is it to respond? Is it county sheriff's office or is it still Redmond PD? And if we basically you push enough people beyond city jurisdiction, basically we've had a transfer of law enforcement patrol response, response to complaints, response to issues, to the sheriff's office. And so I hadn't really thought about, pulling the sheriff's office into this discussion, but I mean, it might be an appropriate thing to kind of have the sheriff talking with the Redmond police chief about kind of, whether this just results in a transfer of work.
And just to add to that, Commissioner Chang, we do have a weekly meeting that includes the city and then some service providers and some other agency partners to kind of talk about East Redmond. And so the sheriff's office and Redmond PD both participate in that meeting. So not at the chief level, but, or the sheriff level, but lieutenant and commander or captain.
So I think, hasn't there been a bunch of fuel reduction and lemming work done on part of the land out there? I remember when I walked it a couple years ago, it was open and cleared. There was some piles that had probably been cleaned up by now.
That map that was circulated with the red zone and the green zone, much of the green zone has been, has fire fuel mitigation.
Well, so yeah, we're talking about the green zone here on county land, and we've never like officially dropped it in front of the board here to say, because it's been referred to a few times. And as I say, I haven't been in a majority position about what's going on out there. So yeah, I mean, do we want to acknowledge a green zone, or I don't know?
Yeah, you're right. The green zone was not approved by the board. The intent of the map was to show people current and planned projects being the red zone so they would not move there.
So as I say, big picture, it used to be recreational areas for horse riding, bicycles, the community to enjoy just hiking. And we're just losing that. We're getting farther and farther away. It's a shame.
Well, I mean, the community has grown pretty fast. I've talked to a lot of old timers who used to hunt on Aubrey Butte. So it's just kind of, cities grow and the use of the surrounding and adjacent lands changes. All right. So do we want to modify this letter at all before we take a vote on it?
So let's just maybe coordinate here. We appreciate the continued collaboration. I'm working my way back. Are we asking for them to do anything? So
We're asking them to
your closure
pause.
of Desert Rise until there's a thoughtful and methodical plan to be created. I mean, we've been working together with them for a long time. Basically, it's the thoughtful and coordinated plan, methodical plan is us working together, and they're just throwing this into the mix. I mean,
Actually, I would take out the words "and clearing." If they want to start clearing, that's fine. But to close it, no. And I would love them to
Desert
pause
Rise,
the
you mean?
closure.
Yeah. I would support that change. Wait, which paragraph is that in?
It's the very end, the last paragraph. It just says, we hope that the city agrees to pause the closure, eliminate and clearing. Because you know what, I could understand. They probably want to get it a lot. It's a big cleanup job. So let them
Yeah.
start that.
Yeah, I mean, and if some of the concerns are about being able to market the piece of land to, potential, business purchasers, then, clearing the land actually really helps in terms of a purchaser being able to visualize what they can do with the land later on, and instead of looking at a mountain of trash. So, I mean, we could even encourage them to start the clearing before they deliberate on closure.
as I say, I don't. It's just part of the mix. I mean, it's for the Deschutes County to say don't do something on the land that you own is, I don't know. It doesn't. It'll affect us because of the displacement of people. And I've always thought that, if a third are asking for help and a third need help, but a third are, maybe more disruptive people, a third of that, 2/3 of that 90 are the ones that we want to try to help. And the other third maybe need to not be around here anymore, but it's just part of the mix.
And the I mean, the way that the city manager and the mayor were describing it, they thought it was, that you didn't have those kinds of proportions in Desert Rise. They said it was a higher proportion of the bad elements. So, but yeah, putting those people in motion basically just makes everything else we're trying to do, I believe, more complicated.
So one of the things I'd really like to advocate for is no, car dismantling, recycling, and business type activity out there. I don't know if we can make that an enforcement request or not, because that's what happens out there. People roll in a car, it ran out of gas and it's got a flat tire, so all of a sudden it is sold for scrap, and then there's parts and pieces spread out all over the place. I don't know if that's reasonable, because we kind of lost control of the whole thing, but this is something I'd love to dial in.
I've been working on that topic. Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, so good timing on that statement. So we've been working with county council and also the sheriff's office to draft like a notice that is going to go out to the individuals out there. We'll also post it that basically to what you just said.
So code enforcement, it's illegal to camp here, but if you're camping here and you're taking apart cars, you can't do that either. I mean, it's getting silly, but at least maybe we can start enforcing something here.
The focus of the notice is like no scrapping, dismantling, kind of like that whole
Yeah.
operation
Yeah.
that you just described.
We've tried to approach both the TSSA and Redmond it's easy especially when we first started at this, it's like, well, what do we do? And we've just said, what can we do? What's the low hanging fruit? And certainly it's not that it's easy, but we've been working.
Chainsaw repair and juniper removal is okay. I joke.
So you're talking about things that we should be requesting.
We might want to ratchet up the fact that let's not have dismantling, because there's people that dismantle for cash flow. That they're for recycling.
Understood. An important topic.
Commissioners, I would just offer the letters really step one to the next phases of collaboration. If they're receptive to the letter at all, because I was able to sit in with each of you in the meeting yesterday as well. And I appreciate the reference to the TSSA, because we heard them say yesterday, as commissioners asked, so where are people going to move? Well, we're directing them to the green zone. Well, the green zone is going to become the next North Juniper Ridge. And the great thing about the TSSA is that it is a collaborative effort with the city of Bend, where we're jointly funding, we're jointly enforcing, we're jointly supporting, we're jointly working together. And I think that that's something we should put on the table with the city of Redmond. Great. If you're directing people to the green zone, then let's partner on how we're going to address that, including the code enforcement, the activities that are used. And I'm not suggesting we begin to fund water and everything else at this point, but if that's where if they're going to be directing people to county-owned property that's in the urban reserve this time it's not,
Side, yeah.
out beyond, then, and this is their future growth area, then they may have a stake in coordinating, partnering, and helping co-funding the green zone. And maybe that is a bigger, broader discussion we have with the board at some point. In my view, the letter is step one to really reflect, whether it's this letter or a modified letter, to reflect the board's intention. And then we hope that the city's receptive to further collaborating on the impacts.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought. And we could even consider adding another couple of sentences to this letter about the green zone and about, coordinating efforts to make sure it becomes not a place where we're warehousing people, but a place where we're trying to move people out of. But it's also, I think it's really urgent for us to, if we're going to send this letter, to send it really soon. So so there's the questions, do we want to modify this letter? We could talk about encouraging clearing, or we could not. Do we want to add any language about, future coordination on the green zone? Or do we want to save that for follow on? And so I'll look to my fellow commissioners to express their opinions on that. Or if you don't have opinions, then I'm happy to put out mine.
I'd say I'd support the letter with that slight change as we mentioned. I'm not you know, this is a ongoing discussion, and this is just the county side of the discussion right now too.
This slight change, meaning just cross out and clearing? Okay.
I'm really,
Kearney?
I'm comfortable with that too. I feel like, we just need to keep talking, and that's what we've been doing. And I think don't you have a meeting tomorrow? A managed camp meeting in Redmond?
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna mention that there is a managed camp meeting tomorrow, but
right. So,
was saving that for the DSL letter, but
okay.
all tied
Anyway,
together.
I think getting this letter to them would be sooner rather than later.
Okay, so let's, is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
Second.
Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded to advance this letter, just removing the words "and clearing" from the final paragraph. Any further discussion? All right, calling for the vote. Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Thank you. All right, thanks, Christy. I guess you're still with us for the next one. Yeah. All right, next we have a draft letter to the Department of State Lands concerning the land exchange in Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Chang. So Board had directed staff to draft a letter to send to Department of State Lands to basically respectfully request their cooperation in completing the land exchange that was initiated back in 2015. So this sort of kind of outlines a little bit of history. I did circulate this and got some feedback from commissioners and also administration and county council, and that's all been incorporated based on the version I have in front of you. So we're happy to make any further adjustments and work with Brenda to finalize the letter for your signature.
Yeah. Well, this land exchange was initiated a very long time ago. And then we had some expectations formalized in a MOU document. And then we just received a letter recently from DSL that indicated that maybe they were not still 100% on board with the plan and schedule that we had laid out in the MOU. So I think that this letter is an appropriate response, indicating our desire to continue with the expectations and pathway that we have laid out with them. And that I shared that with Secretary Reed this morning, and it sounds like Commissioner DeBonne made similar comments. I do think it's also urgent for us to get this letter in motion as soon as possible if we're going to do it, and then to kind of maybe try to precede it by making that call to the director of DSL to give her the heads up.
I'm supportive of the letter.
Okay. Commissioner Dare?
Completely supportive. The sooner we get this out, the better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there's no request for modifications or language changes.
Basically, it just says, let's try to get her done.
Right. Thank you, Christy.
Stick with the plan. Great. Okay.
Just real quickly, you mentioned a phone call to the director. Would that be a commissioner phone call to the director? What would you envision there?
That was Secretary Reed's suggestion.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to do that. I mean, we could all call if we want to all make calls, but
Maybe we should invite her here for lunch.
could do that.
Yeah. Out in the green zone.
Okay. Do we need a motion for this letter? Would one of my fellow commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Calling for the vote, Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of things in motion in East Redmond. Okay. That completes our regular scheduled action items. At this time, are there any other items?
A couple other notes. Talking to Secretary Reed today, pointed out that the 80 acres in Lapine, remember the Department of State Lands received, and kind of following up on land allocations from when we became a state. So they ended up with 80 acres in Lapine. So the state owns that land. But one of the things that comes to mind is if the state comes in and says, oh, great, we're on water and sewer, let's build a bunch of houses here. They could end up being directly competing with us at the moment. We're trying to master plan and talk about developing out the next phases in the new neighborhoods for groundwater protection. So not, just acknowledging that there could be an interesting dynamic if we end up dropping all that land on the books at the same time in Lapine. So we could be competing with the state as we think that they were getting staged for that development. So just an observation. My brother's birthday today. Happy birthday, Chris. So my youngest brother, and he's 56. How does this happen? So, Baker County, we talked today. If you want to kick that off.
Oh, sure. Thank you. We were invited to speak to the Baker County Board of Commissioners to talk about our experience with having a county administrator. They have a ballot measure on their May ballot to move to a Board of Commissioner and county administrator form of government. And they had invited me, and I extended the invitation to one of our commissioners. And thank you, Commissioner DeBone, for joining me. I knew that having commissioner to commissioner conversations about that and your perspectives were incredibly valuable. I think it was incredibly well received. They were very appreciative, and we weren't there to advocate one way or the other, just to share our experiences, our history, which is quite interesting, beginning in 1971 and then 78 and 79. I went back and did a bit of research, and some of the benefits that we believe that it provides to us, and we'll see how, what they choose to do going forward and whether the ballot measure passes or not. As you mentioned, Jefferson County has one, and Crook County moved to a county manager form of government a few years ago. And I always appreciate speaking with Will Van Vactor, their county manager, as he's experiencing budgeting for now it's the second or third time, but he reaches out occasionally, and we have a great regional administrators group in Central Oregon with city managers and county administrators, and great to support our partners in the region and across the state.
And Klamath County has talked about it. I've got that call twice over the years, like, hey, tell me about this. And it hasn't quite got there yet, but Klamath talks about it. And as I say, Chair Alderson, he's run for that seat. So this is kind of that awkward moment for one person on the board is like, well, I guess you're going to vote around me on this, which it happens, because, the judge in Crook County, that was a choice of the other two commissioners that got them changed around too. So it just points out that there's another county setting up for structural change in Oregon.
Yeah, another item that follows pretty smoothly on that is that there will be a city club forum tomorrow on county commissioner elections coming up. So I know I'll be there. I think Commissioner Dare, you're going to be there as well.
I will be there.
Okay.
And Jen Patterson, our strategic initiatives manager, will be on the panel, and I know we'll have other staff and elected officials in the audience as well, which is great.
A couple of members of the District Mapping Advisory Committee will serve on the panel as well. As mentioned, there is a managed camp meeting tomorrow in Redmond. And I'm pretty sure it's my turn because the last one was paused. So I was planning on being there. And the other thing that's happening tomorrow is Leadership Redmond will be here in this room, and we will, the staff shared with me all kinds of AV technological acrobatics they're going to do to make the presentation actually run and work tomorrow. So thank you so much for doing that in this room that is having severe AV challenges recently. Any other items?
Commissioners, the only other one I would mention is Friday morning. I think it was, we talked about it earlier during the road department's updates on some projects. Friday morning, the board will meet in a joint meeting with the Sun River Owners Association in Sun River, and that's our first joint meeting with SROA in at least 5 years. So certainly since before I was in my position. It's just about an hour meeting, a few agenda items, but that'll be of interest as well.
So yeah, I've sat down with them for different topics in the past, as one commissioner, just things that come up. But this is a kind of an official joint meeting, which would be great.
Very good. Oh, I should also just mention, next week I'll be out the beginning of the week, Monday and Tuesday, for spring break week.
Is there a board meeting next Monday? All right. I'm going fishing.
We'll reconvene here on Wednesday. If there's nothing else, we don't have any executive sessions today, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.